Hello, everybody. I'm just gonna make a short little talking video, just about Spirit Halloween. I'm sure I'm not the first one to talk about this. I'm never really the first anymore, but I've heard that there's some returning Spirit Halloween animatronics for this year. The ones that are returning are Demonic Dahlia, Jack Straw, Sam, Pennywise, Crouchy, Jumping Spider, and Sitting Scarecrow. And it's kind of a lot returning. They Spirit seems to return a lot of animatronics now, like compared to what they used to. They used to only like return like two every year. Like back then, it was Rosemary and Creepy Caretaker that they always returned, but now it's like more, which in a way can be good, but it's also bad because the more they return from the previous year, the less newer ones they're gonna have because every year they have about the same amount of animatronics that they release. So the more they release, the less new ones they're gonna have. But that's the only downfall, I guess. And I feel like there's some other ones that should have returned again too, though. Like I feel like Bloodthirsty Betty and Rusty should have returned for a second year because here's why. For me, anyways. I don't know about you guys, but we never had a Rusty on display. We only got three in. There was a guy that came in when we got them. He wanted to buy two, but my store manager only, or my assistant manager only let him have one and told him that's all we have because I had told her I wanted one, so she held the other one for me. Later on, we got a third, but by that time, they weren't allowing no more displays to be set up, so we never had a Rusty on display. Um, Second of all, they were always broken on display because of how Spirit wanted them set up. They wanted them, and Tyler mentioned this in his review, but a lot of people thought they were faulty and no good. But really, the reason why they were always broken at the stores is they had them tied around this cardboard crate, which just, when he flings up his chainsaw, it just falls over, even if you strap him on. Like, Tyler even tried stapling him down, and that still didn't work. Those cardboard crates or whatever were not durable enough to hold him. They weren't stable. He was just wobbly, and he just eventually fell over. And as soon as he hits the ground, those gears in his arms break because that's a lot of force. I mean, it always happens when the arms start going back down too, so it breaks a bunch of gear teeth off. So I wish they would bring him back again and give him another chance to shine because he didn't really get to shine last year because he was always broken due to that reason. The second one, Bloodthirsty Betty, is because we only got two at our store. They both were a display for 2 days. I bought the first one after 2 days. Actually, when I was setting her up in Demonic Dahlia, there was a guy who bought Demonic Dahlia right off the bat before, like, we had two, but we actually had another one in the back, which is the one that I ended up buying. I think we had a total of 4 or 5 Dahlias, but we only had the one Betty. He wanted Betty too, but since I was already setting it up, he didn't take it. But then we got an, but I bought that one in 2 days, and I had that one sticking to the wall, but it didn't last. It just fell off, and then they put it behind the counter, and I just bought it. That's the one that now has the broken relay switch, and it clicks when it goes down. But then we got the second one in, which I zip tied and hung. So, but that only lasted on display for 2 days as well. See, that's the problem. We opened too early last year. We opened when we really didn't have any animatronics at all, and then by the time we got all the other animatronics in, we only had a little quantity, and the other animatronics that were up when we first opened were already sold. And whenever we got more animatronics in, they also sold right away. So I wish we would have waited to open to when we had everything on display. But yeah, I'm surprised Pennywise is making a return because he was, well, I'm sure he'll be updated this year. He probably won't be as faulty, hopefully, and they'll probably make him louder so his volume is louder. Because I think everything about last year's was just defective. The motor with that retraction was always bad and wore out. The springs eventually gave out right away. The volume was too quiet, even at full volume. So I'm sure they fixed it, but the reason I'm surprised is because I figured the only reason that it was released was due to the part two, It Chapter 2. And obviously there's not another It Chapter coming out this year, so I don't know if the sales for him will be as high, maybe. But even though the sayings is from It Chapter 1, but... And Sam is coming back, which at our store he didn't sell very fast, but we actually got a lot of him. He's probably the one we got the most of last year. A lot of people said they didn't get many, but our store got like 6 or more, and it took a while to sell them. However, the only animatronic we have left from last year that we're gonna have is the Arctic Dragon. There's That's the only one we had left after the sale. So that's literally the only animatronic. So we don't have any like carryover animatronics. I'm not sure. I don't think our Spirit Halloween is going to be in that Herberger's building this year because something else is moving in. But it's probably still going to be in the Kirkwood Mall though, because my assistant manager, I ran into her, and she said that they're going to try to make sure it's in the mall every year because the mall makes huge profit off of us for being there because we bring so much business into the mall when we're around. And but I just hope we don't go back to one of those little stupid stores like we were in 2014. That was terrible. I wish I could have experienced the full 2014 themes. It was terrible because everything broke, literally everything. Like we even set something up a second time and they broke right away too. The store was just so small and crammed together. You, it was like you only had like not even a foot to like the next aisle over. It was crazy small. It was terrible. My videos probably are so misleading, but it was tiny. I never want to have it be in a store like that again. And then I hope we don't open so early again next year. I mean, I know opening early is fun, and having to wait for the stores to open is hard, but when they don't have everything set up, what's the point? You should kind of like the flagship location. They always open when they have everything up, and so it's really exciting. But all the other stores, there was the store last year that opened before the flagship location, and all they had was 2 waving Wallies on display. One where Pennywise was supposed to be, and the other in the proper spot. It's like, why would you open? You don't have any of the new costumes yet. You don't have any of the animatronic. Why would you open that early? I like I said, I prefer for the stores to open when they have all the animatronics up because that's what makes the store interesting. I feel like it ruins the experience if you don't have everything on display. Maybe if I wasn't a person that was into animatronics, I wouldn't care as much, but I don't know. But most people come in to look at the animatronics, and sometimes people only come once a season. So if they come at the start and they don't have anything, they might not come back again because they might think that that's all we're gonna get, or they just don't really care. But still, it's best to open when you have everything. Because 2018, when we opened late. We opened September 14th, and I remember I was freaking out with how late we were opening. But at least we had all the animatronics by that time. We had it all. We had it all set up on display, but we didn't have the farmhouse finished either. So we still weren't ready to open yet. But last year, 2019, we opened too early because we didn't have everything. 2016 we opened too early. We didn't have the ISCs finished, so we just had the animatronics all over in random spots of the store. And because the employees said they couldn't find the rest of the pieces, except they were literally in the back room, unopened yet. So they went like 3 days or more with that ISC not being finished. The reason why we opened though is because we had told people when we were going to be opening, and it's like it feels like once you tell people when we're opening, you can't say, oh, we can't open now, because then they'll be pissed off. So we kind of just were like, we told people, I guess we're gonna have to open. In 2017 we opened. We were ready. That was the one year where I think we were ready. We had everything on display. Oh, except Toe Tagged Corpse. That's the only one we didn't have when we opened. But other than that, we were all ready. But I had the Hell Fiend set up Ron. And he broke in like the first day open. And then I kind of fixed it, but it broke again. So I didn't realize I had put the pole on backwards. And I didn't have the hands mounted on anything. So when it dropped down, the whole body dropped down, which eventually stripped out the gears when it tried to go back up because that was too much weight for it. Obviously, the 2 years before 2016 were the really small stores, and it didn't matter when we opened because it was shit. But when we opened in 2014, we didn't have everything yet either. We didn't have everything on display. So let's see. And then 2013, we were kind of ready. There was like 5 animatronics. Back then, there used to be some animatronics that didn't arrive till like later September. Like Convulsing Nurse, Jumping Bug, Snake, and Jumping Rat. Those were the late arrivals of that year. But still, we were basically kind of ready. But we opened August 30th, the last day of August that year, I believe, or the last 2 days of August. And so the stuff started breaking. Then that's another thing though. The sooner you open the sooner the animatronics are going to start breaking down too, because I had to switch out the Thrashing Clown twice, and the Misfortune Teller twice because they were already broken after the first 2 weeks open. Gruesome Granny was broken. Well, multiple were broken already by the first week. Same with Pop Up Zombie. Like there was some that were broken on opening day, right as we were opening the door, so I had to quickly swap them out. See, 2012, we didn't have everything yet either, but we were still practically ready to open. But that was the worst year for quantity. Again, that year we only got 3 of every animatronic, and that's back when they used to send actual store displays, and that includes store displays. So we only got 2 of everything if you don't count the store display. Except for Ghost Girl, that's the one thing that we kind of got a few of. 2011, they opened September 5th, and obviously none of the stores had Rosemary or Gravedigger or the Lurching Vampire when they first opened. But our store was ready. Our store was not ready in 2010 when they were open, and that was the first year they came to my location. They opened September 4th, and they didn't have the circus set up. They were still setting up. As I was leaving, I was there for like 2 or 3 hours my very first day going there. I know I only have like 10 minutes of footage, but I was there for like 3 hours. And trust me, my grandma was getting tired of being there. Um, but they were, right as I was leaving, they were just starting to set up the Caged Beast. But before that, they had the Bone Collector on the checkout desk, and he actually fell off before we left. So and the gears in his head were already stripping, or neck was already stripping out. The Lurching Vampire had broke on the fourth activation. The graveyard, Demonica was. I wonder if the Demonica worked even at first when they started up, because when I came in, she already wasn't rising up and down. But that model was different from the release models, because remember the release 2010 Demonicas, they have to like go up and down in order for their heads to move. Like they have to go all the way up and hit the relay switch. Obviously, that Demonic did not go up and down, so it didn't hit the relay switch, but her head still moved. Harrison researched this back then, and there was actually the store display Demonicas. There was some models where they overrided it, so it didn't have to hit the relay switch. Like they actually gave stores the better model, but some of them came in too late to the point where it was too late in the season for them to use them. So it's believed that some of them just got thrown away, maybe. There wasn't too many of those models, but our store had it right when they opened September 4th, and it was already malfunctioning. So, and they didn't have, since it was like their first year at our store, they didn't have any step pads, they didn't have any adapters, they were all running on batteries, they were going constantly, so their batteries died pretty quickly. And the store was decent sized, but they didn't have enough space to set up the full cemetery because when I first went there, they didn't have the Fog Corp set up or the Guardian of the Grave, because those were supposed to be in separate parts of the cemetery. But on my 3rd or 4th visit, all the ones that were there when I first went, except for Rising Reaper with Pumpkin and Demonica, all the others were already gone, and they had it replaced with Rising from the Grave Corpse. See, I thought they just took them down to set up different ones, but I'm sure they didn't take them down unless they sold already. Except I think the Tombstone Lifter broke, so they might have taken him down. But if you were to ask what year is my favorite at Spirit, it's probably 2010. Because just the memories of the first time going in and hearing Resurrection Mary screaming and Demonica, seeing them in person, the very first time being in a Spirit store, and they're still like some of my favorite animatronics just because of that. Like, I remember when I saw Resurrection Mary and Demonica on Spirit's website, I was obsessed over them. I had to get them. Like, I saved money for so long to get those. I saved $200 because they were $100 each at the time, and I was like, those are my must buys. And unfortunately, those 2 were the most faulty of that year too. Go figure. What's funny is the Resurrection Mary I bought was kind of malfunctioning right away. Like at first, the hair started getting tangled in it, and it was like the head would halfway turn, but then it would turn back, but then it just started working. But then Demonica started having issues, and she's the one I ended up having to exchange right away because the motor already started giving out on the one that I had bought. But yeah, no, that was still my favorite year, and those are still my favorite two of that year. And I don't know if it'll ever change. I mean, every year was good. I mean, there was only two seasons I experienced before I started working there, and that was 2010 and 11. But honestly, it's not a whole lot different because I was there about just as much, and I was still even there trying to interacting with the customers, like talking to customers about the animatronics. There was like one guy with his kids that like they wanted to get the jumping spider or the rising from the grave zombie, so they were trying to decide which ones to get. Of course, originally they wanted the jumping spider, and that was the first year they came out, and that was the fastest version. That one jumped really fast. But and I went back and realized that that was the point where they were just completely sold out. There was no more jumping spiders left anywhere. And then he took the rising from the grave zombie, so I went back and grabbed one for him and handed it to him. I basically pretended I was a worker. And it's crazy how I never realized that the doll face zombie baby was a factory error until now with the Chewy audio. Oh yeah, but the Spirit store in 2011 in Fargo, that store was pretty big. That one was a little bit bigger than ours that year because it you can't tell on video, but that zombie wasteland and the House of Horrors theme was in a separate room. There was actually two separate rooms where it was divided in. The cemetery and the zombie babies were in one room, and then the other theme was in the other room. It was cool. It was really cool. Fargo was that's why I was so excited when I got in there because it was just like wow. And plus they had everything on display except for Rosemary because they didn't have it yet and Harvester. But one of my favorite years of working at Spirit, uh, each year, it's I can't really decide between a single favorite because each year has their own themes that makes it unique and fun. Every year has different people. I mean, there's some people that are still there from years ago, but I've I've stuck around there the longest. Everyone, honestly, the longest ones have been from 2015, and even they're not. Most of those people aren't there anymore. So basically, I am the oldest employee there, besides the district manager. But I'd have to say 2013. That year was a pretty good experience. 2013 through 2016, I had that one boss that was just super cool with me. Like he was very patient with me on teaching me how to do things, and it was nice. But even though I have a different person now, it's still fun. She, the one I've had the past few years, I mean, she keeps me going. She's not as patient. She's, one a little more demanding, makes you constantly walk around, but it's still fun in the end. I still enjoy it. Obviously, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be coming back every year. And soon the assistant manager, who's really nice, who is almost just as cool as my older boss, is going to become soon the store manager. So, and when that happens, oh my god, it's going to be really amazing and fun. Yeah, every year had different people, and I've almost every person I've met at Spirit are pretty cool people. I mean, some stores like Spirit of Halloween 9, I've talked to him and he has terrible experience. Like his Spirit Halloween employees or bosses did not give a shit. He applied to do the animatronic stuff and they didn't even let him. They had some guy set up all the props that didn't even give a fuck. Like when he told the guy this isn't you don't have this set up right. He was just like, "Oh, well, that's how it's supposed to be." He didn't care. It's like, why would you have someone like that set up the animatronics over someone that's really passionate about it? I don't know if I had it paused when I was talking about it, but yeah, no. At Spirit of Halloween 9 store, there was a guy setting up all the animatronics that just didn't even care. Like when Kobe would, or Spirit of Halloween 9 would point it out to him, he would just be like, "Oh, that's how it's supposed to be. It's fine. It's whatever." Like, cause the collector, he told me the collector was like malfunctioning. It was on the step pad mode, and it would like talk, but then it would just shut off mid phrase. And he told him, you're gonna have to take the step pad off." And he was like, "No." The guy was like, "No, that's how they're supposed to be. They're all like that. It's whatever." The guy didn't even connect the wire harnesses for the headless help's eyes and mouth. Like he just did not care. Like So he quit because his Spirit Halloween just did not care. They were crappy employees, crappy people. He worked at Party City instead, and he said it was so much better. But my Spirit store, it's really fun to work at. I've always had good experiences mostly. Because again, all the employees I've ever met at Spirit, I got along with just fine. I've never personally, the people at my Spirit has had issues with each other. There's always drama going on. There's always conflict between. But I've never had conflict or with any of the employees. I've always gotten along with every single one of them, from 2012 all the way through. I've always gotten along with all of them. I've never had any issues. But before I worked at Spirit, there was this one guy who worked at Spirit. His name was like Mac or something, and he was always. If you watch my 2010 videos, mostly he's in my some of my 2011 ones. You'll mostly hear his voice, but if the one you'll see him in is where they get the guardian. The thumbnail is Guardian of the Grave, but he isn't working. But that's the one that I show the guy, and he was so nice to me. Like he always helped me. He talked to me every time I come in the store. He updated me on the animatronics, if they got new ones in, if they were broken, or he was such a cool guy. He was patient with me. He didn't yell at me to stop recording. As a matter of fact, I was recording a belly boss buster that was in the that's the baby that comes out of the shirt. It obviously was closed, but I wanted to see its face, and he saw that I was recording, and he opened the thing for me so I could record the face. I was like, wow, the guy was really nice. I actually got to work with him in 2012, but then after that he moved away, and I haven't seen him ever since. But that guy alone is almost another reason what made 2010 and 11 so special. Is like, it's not even just the animatronics or the. It's just the fact that I went hoping to see him. Like he was kind of like he was my role model basically. He was a role model to me. He was an inspiration to me basically, and that's how he interacted with me. Is how I try to interact with the customers now. How patient he was with me is how I try to be patient with the other customers that come in now and the other kids that come in. I try to act towards people how he was to me because he put that impact on me. Like I said, he was my role model, so I try to be like him when I'm at Spirit. I try to be helpful and help people with what they need and what we have and don't have when I can see that someone cares. Whenever I had broken animatronics and tried to return them to the store, oh, like when Gravedigger was broken, I returned it. Or when my first